We are live on YouTube and live in Facebook in the group, and it appears not to be yelling at me, so that's really good. Neither of them are yelling at me over the top. Let's celebrate.
Congratulations.
Hey, we did it. That took a little while, but we got there. So, welcome back to the Self-Help Bookshelf and our weekly High Leverage Actions podcast. And if you've just seen that very confusing introduction, yes, instead of doing live on YouTube weekly, we are also going live directly in our Facebook group. LinkedIn hasn't kicked in. That's my mistake. I missed one setting, but we will make sure we bring that one in next week, one step at a time. And today's
Right.
topic is
Now it's time to
all
decompress.
and today's topic is all about bottling things up. Hi, I'm Kay Reeve. I'm an emotional awareness expert, and this is my co-speaker.
Rory Lemon. I go by Rory Lemonade on the internet. AID to help.
Ooh, getting fancy now. Right, okay, lovely. That's new as well. We're getting a lot of new things today, apparently. So, no, fantastic. Yeah, it was just something, the conversation came up before we started about the moon causing a lot of pressure this week, things bottling up. And it was me just saying, I've had a week where I feel like I don't even know quite what's wrong, but I just feel like I want to cry. So we're just going to come on air and cry. There we go. You're all yours, Rory. And then we've spent nearly an hour trying to get this live working, setting up new settings. I really are, yeah. Um,
I actually, for some reason, feel a bit better knowing that we're human and that we've got through this together. Uh,
yeah,
so but yeah, before
without the
I
crocodile.
really did feel all day today. It's just had like heaviness.
Yeah,
Deal with, yeah,
yeah.
whatever that was that was feeling like it, and what happens if we just try to, or I just try to push through. It doesn't. My brain and body just won't allow that. Luckily, I've learned to notice it straight away and will either honor it in some way, shape, or form by um stopping, relaxing, breathing, tapping, all these different things as rescue remedies until I feel better enough to carry on, because I feel like that sense of push through isn't necessarily useful, but we're all different and it depends on that level of bottling up. So these little pouring a little bit into the bottle, or letting a little bit of, I like this analogy because you can like let off a bit of gas or steam as the bottle pressure is brewing, like kombucha.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying as well about recognizing those feelings, like when you get those days when it just feels like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, but you're not sure why. And so I've had that same kind of feeling today. Normally we come in here full of life and all bubbly, but today it was just strange that we both came on online and said that we felt the same before starting the live. And so when we're talking about bottling things up, like you said, keeping that pressure in, and yet there are sometimes we don't necessarily want to let everything straight out either, because it might be sitting there and thinking, okay, is it the weather, the lack of sunshine, the rain, or overheated if it's too sunny, or is it maybe of not eaten or hydrated? And so there is that sense of sitting with those feelings versus the sense of just being reactive and volatile. So yeah,
Yeah, it's like what I noticed from it all is this sense of that from my studies as well is that the brain, whether we're conscious of it or not, is finding evidence to make sure we're safe. But that safety mechanisms then will go, oh, is it this? Is it that? Is it this? And maybe there are a lot of factors that are slowing certain things down or not. However, our resilience battery charge in the moment, if it's down, if there's energy down and we haven't noticed it, could be anything that adds to that. But it's a mental battery for handling whatever it is that the evidence is being found for. So because on other days it could be similar, but there's less of a story or evidence for the brain to make us feel like it's wrong to feel like that, or wrong that this thing is happening, or wrong, and that's entirely made up. That part is entirely made up because um otherwise if you gave the same scenario to someone that knew what to do in that situation, that had trained what to do in that situation and loved doing that situation, then they wouldn't find it difficult at all. They wouldn't make it wrong. In fact, it would give them energy
Yeah,
to do that task, to be involved
that's
with
very
that.
true.
So with all of that space of it's entirely personal. It's entirely the stories we've learned from the all the history of the past. It's kind of leads into like what Emma's been writing about in her new book as well, isn't it? The whose stuff is it anyway, and where does it come from? And
Yeah.
and so that stuff, the more we present we become to it, the more we can. The only thing we can do with it once we realize. It's like it's sort of a journey of consciousness in a way. So as we become more aware of it, it can feel worse because we're aware of it more. It's like, oh, I don't want this to be happening, or I'm aware of I'm feeling wrong, but it can feel even worse when focusing on it without knowing what to do afterwards. So we can talk about what to do afterwards, but it is that sense of my framework is recognize, refresh, and it's the first part of of 4 R's. But recognize, refresh is so important, and that's what I do. That's what I just mentioned. I do, and that's not the be all and end all of it because it's not just about it's okay to say, oh yeah, it's all the crap in the world, and then that's it. Because that's a constant.
Mm.
What's life worth living if it's just constant, if it's just a constant, oh, I feel negative and then try to rescue remedy myself all the time. Rescue remedy, rescue remedy, rescue remedy. It's tiring just to go, life is just about stopping trying to be negative. Stop trying to be negative. Stop trying to be negative. Stop trying to be and then and then refresh and then because that can actually what if without consciousness that can become addictions. That's exactly what an addiction is to something, is to feel better through only noticing bullshit come up regardless of outside of us,
Yeah,
or not, or what it is. It's triggering something inside of us, and then we want to feel better from it. And
like
so that's
addicted to
slowing that down to
complaining. Yeah.
recognize and refresh naturally is important. But yeah, what do you get from that, Kay?
Wow, lots. Yeah, like you're saying, some people are addicted to complaining and then they feel happier because they've complained. And I know certainly in the past there's a habit I've got into or been taught the habit and been surrounded by other people who live by the habit. So it's been a difficult one to move away from, but it's possible with time. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot for me as well about bottling up in that, like you said, sitting with it to start with and recognizing what the feeling is or the emotions and where it's coming from. Like from Emma's book, whose stuff is it? Is it something in your own life? Like for me, probably because I didn't get a lot of sleep for the last 3 nights in a row. I don't not even sure why, apart from my back's been playing up. And so yeah, I've not had a lot of sleep for 3 nights. I have worked on my diet more this last week. So I'm like processing this as I'm going. I've worked on my diet because I know the last couple of weeks my diet had, when I say diet, I'm not talking weight loss diet because I've got a lot of food allergies. And if I eat foods that don't agree with my food allergies, I start to have cognitive function issues. And that had been bothering me that I'm trying to build a business and my cognitive functions are impaired. And then there's, there's all the things that stress us. The key things are things like health and diet. And then we've got time. So there's always this pressure over time. Are we getting somewhere quick enough? Have we got too much time to spare? Things not happening quick enough. So there's always this pressure around time. If we've got too many things to do in what little time we've got. I'm trying to think what else, and obviously physical energy as well. And then there's money as well. Like when we've got time, have we got the money? Or if, what the time we're trying to put into earning money, are we getting what we feel we're worth? So for me, with lack of sleep, issues with diet, and finances, I think have been a big issue for me again this week. When I'm expecting money in from multiple sources, and it seems like in every possible way, barriers are being put between me and money at the moment. Like money that I should have had in weeks and months ago is just not coming through. And then I've got a letter this week saying other money could potentially be taken away. So I think overall, I just want to sit and cry this week and just and for me, sometimes that having a cry, and some people don't feel vulnerable enough to do that, but sometimes just letting that out is actually like a bit of an emotional reset. And once those tears are gone, or for other people, it's going letting out adrenaline. You might want to go down the gym and hit a punch bag for half hour, and get the energy out that way. So that tends to be less me and more let it out in tears. But between adrenaline and cortisol, I think tears and exercise are both good ways of like not bottling up and letting that pressure out. So yeah, I'm gonna let some tears out there and just debottle.
You debottle it. Yeah.
Debottle it, yeah.
Uh, yeah. Um, yeah, it's important to recognize. And over
Definitely.
time, what does that, what is it doing for someone if it is not even recognized? So there's a stage before recognizing
True.
stuff that wants to be done or not done,
Yeah.
and all the evidence that's being found for those processes, how that accumulation
Mm.
can build up to the point of real burnout, was it real breakdowns?
Yeah, because it's also it puts people in drive as well when you're bottling things up and like, I'm not going to deal with it, I'm just going to carry on. I'm not going to deal with it, I'm just going to carry on, or you're afraid to deal with it. So there's different things here, either denial or fear and anxiety about actually addressing problems. So this is another thing that comes up with added pressure. And sometimes it's having those skills to deal with whatever challenges are going on with, especially when it means having conversations with other people about things that are happening or not happening, depending on which way they should be going, and how to have those conversations without escalating or firing things up, and how to actually resolve situations. And these are all life skills. And we were talking about the vulnerability and we've got communication skills and self-reflection. There's comfort zones as well and circle of influence. And it's all relevant depending on what it is you're bottling up. But bottling things up is definitely not healthy, because the more you do hold that in, eventually it, like we talk about the bottle of lemonade, it does eventually go pop. And that's when things turn nasty, abusive, aggressive. Um, People have fallouts, lose jobs, end up without a home to live in, and all kinds of things that we want to be avoiding if we can. And resolving all of these problems, that it not just avoiding problems, but actually turns into personal growth. That's the ideal outcome, personal growth, Rory. What do you take from that?
That it's coming to the idea that what's the opposite of things up? And I love the science behind this too, the of flow.
Ooh,
Flow.
that's a good
So,
one.
so when things are feeling like they're flowing, there's no bottling up. It doesn't feel like it's stopping somewhere inside of us. It's just coming in and going out, coming in, going out, going in, coming out.
That's good.
Uh, and so the what I love what you said about this sort of sense of like things can just, if it's not even aware, it can suddenly be an explosion of something,
Yeah.
someone potentially just suddenly saying something that you weren't aware of, and they could and there was no conversation about it. So
Mm,
it's like there can be a resistance to sharing feedback, for instance, which is something that I've certainly been learning about more and more, more, whereby it's how to deliver feedback or introduce it, ask for permission to deliver feedback, let it out in some way. It could be, like you said, out into the ether, into a punch bag, into just out, or it can actually be part of a process of dialogue. And there's often, if there's resistance to that, it's it's again, it's this made up. There's the resistance is there to protect us, but it's also there to show us where the growth is, and that growth being what can be done to talk about these things with others if it's involving others. Sometimes people don't want it to be about confronting with others those things, and it really depends if they've passed away or died or something, and there's no chance to do that anymore to resolve that thing, then there's ways to, like, you know, write it again and not have to share it with the person. It doesn't necessarily need to be with that person. It can be just a dialogue, imagining it, because when we're imagining doing it and releasing it, it's how we really deal with any kind of grief grief as a sense of flow is useful and loving. It's a loving process when it's actually happening in real time. But if it's more guilt and bottling up the grief, then that can be the the struggle that people have. Um, and it's just to become stories, and then it starts to affect that happening in that situation and looking out for and recreating it with other people in other situations in the future or in the present. And so that's where it's like wherever I have struggled with something where I haven't, it's not been in flow, or I've had evidence about something, it's a trigger to go, okay, well, if I want that to not happen again in the present or the future with anyone else, then it's up to me to deal with that, to work with that, and to work out a process of, do I need to let go of something personally, or with someone, or without someone, but with someone, without someone, as in to write a letter to myself or to them and then burn it, or whatever it is. There's processes to release it out. So it comes back down to forgiveness. We've talked about forgiveness before, but and taking responsibility. We've talked about responsibility for you, which was the last one. And it's again, it's all coming back down to choice, no matter what it is, finding evidence that the things you're mentioning about, all the challenges and the finances and things like that, that's all potentially evidence of the past raising its head again, because there's a better dynamic way to deal with the flow of the discussions around it, to where it can be, where can there be agreements where there weren't, and all that kind of stuff is really important to go, what's actually necessary, what's needed, where are the needs not being met, where can I take responsibility for that, where can I have those conversations in the future or the present or past um releasings, in order to come back into flow.
mm, fantastic. Yes. And that whole point, like you said, of processing through different methods is important, from the self-work aspect, but then also, like you said, like writing letters could actually be to somebody rather than releasing and letting go. And we can still be grieving things with people who are still alive, or grieving processes, lost jobs, things like that, breakups from relationships. So there's lots of things where we can be bottling things up. And that brings me around to another point: relationships. That is pretty much what Emma's new book is about, Whose Stuff Is It Anyway, which is now out on paperback. It's launching up officially on the 25th of this month. I would hold off to buy it later because we've got 1 or 2 tweaks to do and re-upload. Found some more issues in it this morning, so they're going to do an upload, but it's there on Amazon. Go and save the page. And also my book coming out on the 23rd of October is also 30 Love Values, all about relationships. And relationships absolutely are the place where either we need to process information with a partner or colleague or relative, whoever it is, that is not necessarily romantic relationships, but they're all kinds of relationships. So it's how we process those conversations and those actions and those interactions to avoid bottling things up is really what my book is about. Or if it's already stuff that's happened and it's built up and it's escalated and it's ended up in the worst case situations and there's a lot of past trauma to deal with, that's where Emma's book is based on, dealing with and processing and letting go of all of that trauma and baggage and getting that out of the way to find you again. So between the 2 books, they actually coming out just at the right time together, to be honest. So yeah, so the relationships is key, and communication, absolutely. Whether it is talking, accepting, whether it is sometimes holding back and not saying what you think, but actually going and processing for yourself first, and then coming back with a more positive communication. Writing letters, emails, whatever it is, there's so many ways of communicating. And then there's also the relationship with yourself, self-talk, self-care, all of that. And so much of this we've already covered in little aspects throughout the weeks. Well, this topic's really turned into something, hasn't it, Rory? Like,
Oh,
we
yes.
again, we decide this literally seconds before going, right, let's set all the live up. And these topics just come out week after week, and I love them. They're brilliant.
Yeah.
Just
I
communicating that in all the middle, just
yeah, it's always fascinating what can be led back to what's so important about managing life and making ourselves feel better and work better with each other. And you mentioned those books, which is more the technicality, your books. Also, my book as well, it is a representation of how to not bottle up creativity and creative flow as well, because sometimes we're not necessarily we'll find evidence, we can find evidence for other stuff if we're not just feeling like we're doing our passion and our purpose in life, regardless of whether it's earning money from that process or not. They both require creative energy and where that creative energy is flowing or not. So when doing something just for yourself, just for art's sake, that kind of stuff, that in my book is not necessarily hit. It's not teaching anything other than how I perceive those things, so there can be influence taken from it, but it's more a case of a representation of releasing ideas and thoughts out into the world. And so and just having fun playing and designing. So so yeah,
actually,
I think it's important to bear in mind that too, that can be a thing as well. When we're upset with something, is it just because there is a case of just a bit focusing inwards, relaxation, or doing something that reminds us of who we really love being, which is whatever that is, drawing or singing or laughing, dancing, singing. And if that's all we're doing is thinking we should be focusing on something and that isn't necessary, but it's actually feeling like a obligation rather than filling up our cup first before doing those things, then those things are gonna consistently feed back to us as why me? Why am I having to do this? Why do I have to do that?
yeah. And that's a great point, actually, when you're saying about processing emotions through art and creative ways. That's also Sue Bailey's book coming out very soon as well, already on pre-sale, is Misunderstood No More, Untangled by Love. And hers is a beautiful book about personality traits that come with autism and non-verbal learning disability. And it's how she's processed all the individual parts of her personality as these individual characters almost. And she's created up a profile of each character trait and put it with a painting where she's very emotively painted how she feels when she's in that modality, and put 30 of the about no, I think it's about 30 of these characters she's put together. An absolutely beautiful book coming out as well with all of her artwork. So yeah, between us with the trauma therapy, the relationship sort of proactive side of maintaining relationship, and the therapeutic art of the self relationship for autism and non-verbal learning disability, and Rory's leadership and creative books, which he's just shown you one, and another one coming out end of November. I'm holding you to that one. It will be here. Yeah, between us, we've kind of got all of this covered in this group, and I love how it all works together. There's no clash between any of it all. And we've actually got somebody watching us live today. So hi, please do drop us a comment as well, because if normally we don't see the chat, but because we're coming live to Facebook and YouTube today for the first time in both, and I've taken a slightly different route, I can actually see the chat for both. So do let us know if you're watching and give us any feedback, because we want this to be interactive. We want to be able to communicate with you and hear back from you as well. Because like we say, otherwise we just sit here bottling up and go, is anybody listening to us? We want to know what's going on out there in the world as well, and what people think. So yeah, do give us feedback.
Well, it's all, and
People on replay.
also anything that is fascinating when it's actually declared, spoken, written, fed back, it's a ripple effect of not necessarily just for our benefit, but for the benefit of anyone writing. If I'm watching something, I stay typing in the chat. It really builds up my um narrative of what I want to create in the world through recognizing the insights that come from others and repeating them instantly, repeating them, building up those neurocreative bonds in the brain for what is wanted. And when that happens, it's an algorithmic share of what you find interesting will others in your close network will also find that interesting. And it's all about ripple effect of what's important in this life. So yeah, your highlights, your comments, your questions, your um, all so useful, and not just because we want uh, it for ourselves.
No, absolutely. A ripple effect is another topic we've done in the past. So, but
Mhm.
yeah, we want new ideas as well. Whether you're watching now, watching on replay, whether you're watching on YouTube, in Facebook, and next week we plan on getting it right and getting it in LinkedIn as well. So the plan is to go live on all three platforms at once from now on. Fingers crossed, he says. We got 2 out of 3 today. It's our song, isn't it? 2 out of 3 ain't bad. We got close. I didn't quite get the third one in today. But yeah, so cognitive functions just kicked in again.
That's all right. So yeah.
Gone.
Just to round off, what's coming up for me is like the recognize refresh is like the rescue remedy of noticing what's coming up, and to refresh, to calm down, to access relaxation. We can also be in flow with activation, like you said, going and punching the punch bag, whatever it is, when we're actually using that emotion or having the resistance, that's the signal to either do it or don't, absolutely don't it. That's fine. Don't
Do it or don't it.
do it or don't it. And
Don't doubt it.
and yeah, rather than just trying to freeze or hold it for too long. So, and it's an ongoing process. It's always an ongoing process. And for me, I still notice where I'm delaying responding back because I've learned to analyze what I'm saying and think things through, and it can so easily go from noticing to resistance to a delay to think about what to say to double guessing myself, and then suddenly it's procrastination, and even just in that moment of procrastination then it can be lost again. I can lose my thread, and then I'll want to do it again. So it's that thing of how complicated the thing is feels that's the gold. That's where the gold is. And so it's important to always notice and address it, and address it whenever you can before it keeps bottling up any further, or just let go of it completely. And so that's where we can rehearse from the space of once we're refreshed properly, we can also rehearse and create results that we do want from rehearsing in our minds what is actually what we want to happen, and then taking actions, not knowing exactly how, but just taking the action with that in mind, that intention in mind that is so important to, as I say, if I remember what it was that I wanted to address, but I delay it, and then like that's why I've loved the rise of the voice notes, because it's so much sometimes easier, and actually I've got t voice to text now, because every time before um it would be so difficult to work out what to say in text, because as I'd slow down to type it, I could only remember half a sentence, and all this ideas of what to say would all be there all at once. And then I would write half a sentence, and then I'd have like the second part of the paragraph come back in as the idea to write. So I'd write that bit, and then it would be like, how do I join those two bits together? It'd be like writing an essay just to bring up 3 points to write as a message, because that's where the neuro diversity comes in for me, my personal neurodivergence. So I'm getting stronger and better at it, and I'm able to just press the button and talk it out. Before I couldn't even have the idea and put it into words at the same time, and now I can. So I'm getting there.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we talk about neurodivergence and cognitive functions and everything. And for anybody who hasn't seen this before, and we haven't mentioned it today, we've both got our own forms of neurodivergency going on. I don't even know if I'm using the right word for that half the time. I'm still learning. But it was only a few years ago I realized I've got ADHD. It's still undiagnosed. Rory has talked a lot on various episodes about dyslexia. And it was when I was saying to Rory one day off camera, tell me what this neurodiversity, what this dyslexia is about, what it feels like. And because it's not writing dyslexia, is it? And writing and spelling. It
Not
was, um,
it's the whole process. It's the working memory, which is low,
yeah,
and the processing speed, which is low, because of the working memory, the reasoning and the auditory processing. Auditory processing is kind of in the middle, and reasoning is really high. So there's a peak and a trough. Yeah.
yeah. And I don't know how you sort of figured all of that out, or whether that was part of a was it
That's
part of
part of the diagnosis.
Okay, because I've never had all that done, but as Rory was explaining it to me, it was like, my God, that makes so much sense to how my brain works. So I think I'm very much the same, but I've not had the diagnosis, not even on the list for it. But it helps me to understand a little bit more why I have felt like I've had a lot of challenges over the years. And very often things like that can lead towards bottling things up as well. When you've got frustrations that you just do not understand at all. So if you're feeling frustrations and bottling up and nothing that you're looking at can explain the answers, look at some things you haven't looked at before as well. Sometimes the answer is somewhere new, somewhere that you not always obvious. I mean, I think in my 50s, you think I would have known whether or not I'm dyslexic. But yeah, as you were explaining that to me a few months back, it was just like, oh yes. I think, yeah.
It's also probably where the two of ADHD and dyslexia blend in, because I
Mm.
can, if I was if I was to say, um yes, it's just my de declaration. But if I was to say, if someone was to say, are you ADHD or whatever, I would be saying, yes, I fit into that criteria completely, 100%.
Yeah.
How many conversations I've had with people, talk two or three deep conversations a week for the last 3 years around
Mm.
these things. And yeah, so it's just fascinating, and again, it's it's just a situation in the mind and of description. of not
Yeah,
right or wrong, but it's part of it's environmental. It's environmental as to whether or not that particular way of thinking works or not.
yeah. And I think it's still all relevant to the topic today because when we're talking about bottling things up, a lot of that frustration can be with the self, beating herself up, talking ourselves down, knocking ourselves back all the time. And that is a form of kind of internally bottling things up, not at somebody else, but it can end up being about the world, about life not being fair to us, about, never having a lucky break or the right opportunities. And there can actually sometimes be reasons behind that. So, we talk a lot about different forms of neurodiversity, as well as some little bit we talk about mental health issues once in a while. But for me specifically, the emotions are always important no matter what. So whether you are neurotypical, neurodivergent, mentally well, mental illness going on, emotions are emotions. And it's all affected when we bottle things up. And so learning all of the strategies that we talk about on this podcast really do help with all of that, regardless, whether you're male, female, young, old, whatever country you live in, whatever football team you follow. Emotions are emotions for everybody. But understanding sometimes that there are some additional challenges going on, whether it is work, relationships, self, neurodiversity, health, diet, whatever it is, are all parts of that self-awareness in a way, aren't they? That all comes together. But it's about being more open-minded about what that awareness is to help relieve some of that pressure. We don't want to be shaking that bottle up and then opening it in somebody's face and just letting it blow up. We want to be, like you said, Rory said earlier, release the pressure gently off to the side, but healthily. So it's not about avoidance either. So bottling things up or relieving that pressure is not about avoiding the issues. It's about processing and managing and communicating around issues in a healthy way. And the more we learn to do that, the more we actually develop our own personal growth and resilience. And the more resilience we grow with that, the more we handle everything better. And the less we bottle things up. It's like the vicious cycle in reverse, isn't it? It's like taking that vicious cycle and turning it back the other way. So, but no, I think another great conversation today, Rory. Really, really pleased with that. Thank you. And I feel a bit less like crying now than I did at the start of it.
Yeah, I appreciate
I
that.
still feel tired, but no, thank you so much. And also to everybody who's watched in already on the live. If you're watching the replay, please let us know. And thank you for watching today's episode about bottling things up with the High Leverage Actions podcast. Anything else from you?
Yay! Amazing. And there's the button on the live streaming app that just presses stop.
There we go. There we go then. We'll see you all next week for another episode. Till then, take care and don't bottle things up.